Okay, now we're going to do the Diver Dan tutorial, and in this one we're going to go over a little bit of parenting and anchor points to show you how you can articulate a shape or an object by using layered files and moving them with the anchor point or rotation point selected and set. Now we're going to do Aerating Diver, so select Aerating Diver and double click. And now you have the Aerating Diver. And the Aerating Diver includes this diver that is not a layered file, it's a single layer file. We want to use the layered file, which is the one called Diver Dan. It's a subcomp. And I'm going to take this and I'm going to replace layer 2 diver with the Diver Dan comp. The way to do that is you select the layer you want to replace down in the timeline, and as long as it's a compatible file type or a compatible type of layer, it will be replaced. Go up to the project window, select the one you want to replace it with, and then hold Option and drag it down, drop it on top. And now you see this one is the comp, okay? And if you look at layer name, it tells you the original actual source name is Diver Dan. So the layer name is Diver. Let's Command S to save that change. And now we want to change the size of the comp, and we want to actually articulate him in his own subcomp. So we're going to double click to open him in his own comp window. Now at this point, his arms and his legs can't move very much before they are cut off, and this would be a problem. So go to Composition, Composition Settings, and here we're going to change, as you can see, its width and height 360 by 600. Make sure the aspect ratio is not locked. If it says this, turn off the check. And what we want to do is we want to change the width and the height each to 800 pixels. To give him enough room to move his arms and legs. Make sure it is 5 seconds long and say OK. So here he is. And now you can see what his layers are. He has layers. The diver himself, his shoulder, his upper arm, his forearm, his wrist, and the harpoon that he's holding. So we want to move the anchor points. So you want to use the anchor point tool. The anchor point tool is up here in the menu bar. You see it's called the pan behind or anchor point tool. And the shortcut is Y. So if you press Y, you get the anchor point tool. You can also just go ahead and select it up there, but just to let people know. Now we need to move the anchor point for each of these. So starting with the harpoon, his handle, the handle of the harpoon is in between his fingers, so we'll put the middle of it there. Hand wrist. Where does your hand wrist bend? It bends right about where that bone is in your hand, so about there. The forearm. The forearm bends where it connects to the upper arm, which is at your elbow. So right at your elbow there. The upper arm bends right at your shoulder joint, right there. And I made a shoulder, which is actually just a round thing. And I'll turn off the eyeballs so you can see. See, it's just a round thing. And that's so that when you are rotating his arm, it doesn't look like it separates. And we want to make sure that that center of that is about the same place as the center of the upper arm. And then the diver, I think the diver's center of weight would be around the place where his belt is. So the center of his body would be about there. Okay, so now we have all those selected. So let's press V so we get our selection tool back again. Let's do Command S to save. In the layers for Diver Dan, just over to the right, you'll see the parent column. We want to parent each of the layers to the next layer up in the chain. That's what it's called, a chain. So you got a layer hierarchy, parented layers in a chain. So the harpoon thingy should be parented to the hand wrist to the forearm to the upper arm to the shoulder, and the shoulder to the diver. Okay, and the diver is not parented to anything. Command S. So make sure that you do have the right tool. Let's deselect everything, make sure we're deselected, and we want to have the right tool. And at this point we want to use the rotation tool and the rotation transform. So press R, that selects rotation for everything, okay? And now we want to put in a rotation keyframe for all of the layers. So we're going to select all the layers. We're going to click in the timeline. Then I'm going to click in the gray to deselect. So we're going to do each layer in turn. And we're going to move to the first second so we can put in the first rotation. Let's grab the harpoon. Okay, we want to have the rotation tool. For the rotation tool, we press W. And now let's grab the edge of this and rotate his harpoon. Okay, now we'll go to the hand wrist. And we'll rotate the hand wrist. Forearm. Upper arm. And I think that's enough. And I'm going to go to 2. And I'm going to rotate the harpoon thing. I'm going to make it look like he's going to shoot something. The hand wrist, I think, is in a good position. I'll just tweak it a little bit here. And rotate the arm up a little bit. And I think that looks good. You don't have to do everything each time. I think I should rotate him a little bit though. Let's get him rotating. Maybe that way, because he's lifting his arm. And then let's have him take his arm and move it down. And sometimes it's easier to rotate down here, so sometimes that is less likely to disassemble things. Sometimes it's easier to rotate down here, so it's less likely to come apart that way. I think at this point I'll make him rotate back. And just keep doing this so that you end up with some interesting motion going on, because what we're going to do is we're going to have him floating through the fish tank. We want him to look interesting. And then for the last one, I'm going to put in these first, but I have to do them layer by layer, because if you try to do keyframes across layers, it duplicates the layer as well, and it really messes things up. So I'm going to Command C, Command V. 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 Okay. Now I'm going to Command S, and we'll go back and see what the aerating diver looks like. Command save, And let's see, he's going to be moving his arm. Okay, now we can put motion on him, and we can also change his scale. And this is fun because we're going to make him swim all the way across. We're going to make him change scale. So I'm going to start here at the 0. We're going to press P. So we got diver selected, press P, and then shift press S. So we have position and scale boat. And click on both stopwatches. And now I want to change the scale on the first frame to make him 25%. So he's small. And I'm also going to move him so he's in the upper left-hand corner. I'm going to Command S. I'm going to go to the far side. I'm going to move him so he's down near the bottom and over to the right. And at the same time, I'm going to make him grow to 125%. And I'm going to Command Save, go back to the first frame, and press the spacebar to preview. So that's kind of fun. Now I'm going to stop that. I'm going to move him move the CTI near the middle so I can see the entire length of the motion path, and so I can more easily adjust what I want to adjust. I'm going to select position. When you have position selected, it has Bezier curve handles. Now I'm going to press the V so I have the selection arrow, and I'm going to, using my selection arrow, which again, press V, I'm going to grab the Bezier handle and I'm going to pull it up so I can curve that path. Then I'm going to come to this Bezier handle, which is more easy to see now that the path is curved up. I'm going to drag that one down. So that gives him a much more interesting path. Command S to save, and then check that. Okay, now that's very cool. Press the spacebar to stop, and take him back to the first frame. Command S. Now, let's go to the bubbles layer, the bubble layer. Select the bubble, and now I'm going to set a keyframe for the bubble for position. So press P for position. I'm going to take the CTI back to the beginning. I'm going to select the bubble, and I'm going to put in the first keyframe. So I'm back at 0, put in the first keyframe for the bubble. I'm going to drag it down to the bottom. I'm going to go to the last frame and drag it up to the top. I'm going to curve the motion path a little bit. So you got the curved path. Press the spacebar to watch it go. You've got this nice bubble floating up to the top. Command S. But now I'm going to show you a way, an easy way to make lots of bubbles. So now we want to, first we're going to use one of the effects that has to be applied to a pre-existing layer. And it will take the color of the pre-existing layer and use it as part of what it is doing to make this bubble effect. So we want to use a light color blue so that it will look like bubbles in a fish tank. So let's go to Layer, New, Solid. We're going to choose a light blue color. So I've got a medium cyan solid. You want to make sure it's comp size and then say OK. And it looks like it's going to fill everything. We want to go now to the effects. And we're going to use the effect Simulation CC Bubbles. So it would be in Simulation and it would be in CC Bubbles. So you can see that there. Now, if you couldn't remember that name, how could you find it? You can type the word bubbles in the search and it brings it up. Now I'm going to double click on the word CC Bubbles and it applies it, and you see there's these nice bubbles. I'm going to save Command-S and I'm going to press the spacebar so you can see that. Now I think I want the bubbles to be behind him, so press the spacebar to stop it, and let's just drag this layer behind the diver. Command-S. And there you go. We're going to go back and get the sound 5-second bubbles. Pull that underneath and Command-S and press the spacebar. And there you have it.